Okay, welcome back then. We are in early January 1861, and yeah, a bit of an impromptu break. And for a couple of reasons, but chief among which is the fact that we left off, of course, in late December 1860. I passed turn and immediately realised that the situation had dramatically turned on its head, and that kind of what we would have to do really is to have a really careful think about what to do kind of in the next period. I didn't want to kind of do anything on the fly. I didn't want to improvise because we are in an immensely dangerous situation. And I should say, folks, I passed turn and we are really facing defeat in the face now. We're on the kind of the edge of the abyss. And we'll let's have a look at kind of exactly what's happened. So you recall back, obviously it was a week ago, that we had two army corps in Wallachia, besieging Bucharest under the command of Abdul Karim Nadir Pasha and Hussein Avni. We had an army two armies in Bucharest, one army in Plevna under the command of Riza, and then in the west, of course, we had two armies, one under Omar Pasha and one under Abdi Pasha, and Omar Pasha was set to conduct an offensive into Sarajevo district, which is to say not assault the fortress, but engage an Austrian army in that region. And well, look, let's have a look through the reports and try. Still not in my mind quite pieced together what's happened. First of all, on the surface of it, we get 4 national morale points from battles. So we don't lose any national morale points from battles. So you wouldn't think that this is any kind of colossal defeat. But it's a colossal defeat that probably will have a lag effect unless we're able, by the skin of our teeth, to kind of to get out of this. But we get 4 national morale points from battles. Austria is sitting at what? 109, we're at 123. So on the surface of it, it's not apparent yet that we're in really serious trouble. But let's have a look at the reports. Let's have a look at the action as it kind of came through. Now, as I was sitting here, as the turn passed, it immediately became apparent to me after about 3 or 4 days that something was different. The Austrians usually prosecute an attack, sometimes with overwhelming force. We give them a really serious hiding, and then they break off. And there might be some kind of, some mopping up operations where there's some part of the Austrian force still in theatre, they're engaged, and so on and so forth. This time, there was battle after battle after battle. It was unrelenting. This last fortnight has been the most bloody 2 weeks since 1850 that we've either experienced in terms of casualties sustained or inflicted. Again, an absolute bloodbath. The likes of which we haven't experienced just yet. And it has resulted, as you can see, all of these forces have been set by the theatre commander to evade battle and to basically fall back. And for good reason. Let's have a look at what's happened. So, the first engagement is innocuous enough. It's in Macedonia to the rear. This was an Austrian army corps that was making a nuisance of itself. It looks like it's this force here. It's heavily damaged. And it's fallen back to where Abdi Pasha is. That's a fairly small engagement. It's small potatoes. It's a victory. We inflict 2,000 casualties, take 1,200. Okay, fine, But this is where it begins. In the east. On the Danube. The first engagement is not in Bucharest, but is in Plevna. So I suspect it's the Austrian army from Constanza moving in to try and secure the rear and envelop our forces. We get a national morale point from this, so we know who wins. It's a victory, but it's only one Austrian army corps. And at this point, Hussein Avni is the theatre commander, is the most senior commander out of the 3 that we have in this area. So he takes command, and obviously his force, combined with Abdul Karim Nadir, provides support across the Danube to Riza Pasha. So we have a combined force at this moment of 260,000, okay? And 1,700 guns. We inflict 22,000 casualties, take 10,000. It's in the bag. Fairly small potatoes in the great scheme of things. We overwhelm the Austrian force here, and a job well done. That's the first engagement. The second one then is outside Bucharest to the north, and we get a national morale point from that. It's a big one. It is a big one. So we inflict 56,000 casualties, destroying 6 regiments entire. We take 30,000 casualties, plus we take 9,600 prisoners. Very, very successful. We're going to be happy with that. It's a big pitched battle. At this point, at Bucharest, the Austrians appear to have a force of about 200,000 men. Minus, I guess, 56,000, right? So, that is the first battle of Bucharest. That's just where it starts. Second big battle then This is a bit more confusing in terms of what's happening here. But it looks like kind of an army corps under von Benedek plus the fortress garrison. It's a pretty messy action, this. A number of elements here are routed. I'm guessing this is our cavalry division, which falls under Abdul Karim Nadir's force. And this looks rather messy. We take just under 7,000 casualties, inflict just under 4,000. So it's a fairly small kind of engagement. But again, there's still forces there. And I thought, that's it, that's the wrapping up, that's the mopping up. The main Austrian force has fallen back. That's the kind of rear guard, plus they're bringing to bear the garrison they have in Bucharest. Oh no. Oh no. Next battle in Bucharest. And good God, it's unbelievable. We inflict 100,000 casualties on what is now a combined Austrian force of nearly 500,000 men. 477,000 2,500 guns against our force, now reduced to 174,000 plus 1,400 guns. We inflict, again, 100,000 casualties. We take 53,000 casualties. And a number of elements are destroyed, including 9 Guard Corps elements. And we destroy 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, lucky for some, elements of the Austrian attacking force, which is substantially larger than ours. It's more than twice the size. But this is possibly the biggest battle we've seen as well. And it's not a quick action. It is an absolute slogging match. Goes on for 6 rounds. It is a victory. We inflict twice the number of casualties, but they have more than twice the number of men. And even with the prisoners, there's a kind of attrition going on here. And I thought that has to be it. I mean, good God, that's unbelievable. So that's the action we've just looked at. Another action, we've lost it. What's key here is that we don't lose a national morale point, because we still managed to inflict 63,000 casualties on the Austrian force. Now reduced in number to 443,000 men. We still destroy many, many elements. And we only take 25,000 casualties, but we do lose 16, 17 elements in total. But this time, they take 24,000 prisoners. So our force is essentially starting to collapse. Our position is beginning to fall apart. And that's not just Abdul Karim Nadir's force, that's everything that we have there, plus Rita Pasha in support. And that's basically, I think that is actually it for Wallachia. No, there's a battle at Plevna at the end. This is also a defeat. So our main force has fallen back into Plevna, and yeah, they have 200,000 men. We're now down to 134,000. So basically, they've just completely swamped our position. They've swamped our position. They've inflicted enough casualties that it's forced our army to begin to collapse. They've not really won a pitched battle, like through any kind of convincing maneuver. They've just used force of arms. But not just that. My suspicion is they've kind of played us at our own game here. They have conducted a sustained offensive and have ordered their forces to attack at all costs, to not break contact, subject either to organizational loss or to casualties. So they have continued to prosecute the attack. And on that basis, they've just continuously inflicted, even though we've inflicted far more casualties than we've taken in every given kind of engagement, it just wasn't enough. And the net result is our army is beginning to collapse. It's really messy. Really, really messy. If we begin to kind of look at some of the casualties, well, let's have a look. This is Abdul Karim Nadir's command, which would have had about 90,000 men. So that's about 8,000 men. Most of his command is destroyed entirely. So 2 army corps completely have been destroyed, staff and all. They will have to be reconstituted from scratch. That's not going to be a fast affair. It's going to be, I mean, if it's a militia corps, we need to do 21 officers. It's going to take a couple of months, 2-3 months, maybe longer to do that. Okay, his guard corps is a guard corps in name only. His guard corps consists of a HQ service asset unit under strength and 2 under strength field artillery regiments. All of the teeth arms in that corps have been completely destroyed. We have a kind of officer corps around which we can reconstruct this force without needing to build it from scratch. So that's Abdul Karim Nadir's force. For the most part now, merely a paper army. Let's have a look at the next one. Hussein Avni's command, again an army of about 90,000. About 34,000 men left in that. None of the forces are completely destroyed, but they're all kind of, you know, completely hollowed out, really. They need to be, many of them need to have elements that are sort of, you know, like redeveloped from scratch with new localized officers and this kind of thing. The Guard Corps remains sort of intact, but hollowed out. And the other two corps in a similar sort of state. In terms of the 3rd Infantry Corps, I mean, there's enough officers around which we can reconstruct some of the elements, but the others will have to be reconstructed from scratch. The Cavalry Division exists. I mean, it consists basically of a Field Artillery Regiment and a handful of officers from other regiments. Rita Pasha? Where are you, Rita Pasha? His force is probably the best shape. About 50,000 men left. And, yeah, I mean, the Guard Corps, heavily damaged. It looks like they really kind of, you know, did stand and hold at all costs and pay the price. The other two corps in moderately better shape. But yeah, it's a, you know, it's kind of a strategic defeat. It's not a tactical defeat. We haven't lost a single pitched engagement, really. We have, I mean, the last two battles, both at Plevna and Bucharest, we do lose. And that's just because the forces that have fallen back and the combined forces here are in such bad shape. And the Austrian force is so overwhelming that they're just compelled to fall back. So this position has very suddenly, spontaneously crumbled. We inflicted colossal casualties on the Austrians in the last fortnight, but just not enough. And they continue to press. They continue to throw everything in. And what we can see is in the west, where Omar Pasha conducted a successful offensive at Sarajevo. Let's have a look at that. I mean, that's a beautiful, perfect kind of vintage Omar Pasha sort of pitched battle. We inflict 55,000 casualties. We take 12,000 ourselves. We can see the Austrian force here is 175,000, but there's nothing really else around here. So I think what the Austrians have been doing is been keeping this force here as a screening force, anticipating us to send some forces maybe to the west, and they have brought everything around, maybe using, I don't know what areas, you've got railroad here, major roads. I mean, these areas have major roads, so they can maybe bring to railroad sort of eastern Debrecen, eastern Hungary, maybe conducted some sort of force march. But anyway, they have brought all their forces to town on the, you know, the eastern front, really, on the Danube at Bucharest, and it paid dividends, you know. Really smart move by the AI, you know. One of the problems the AI has, it's a really weird thing, because you look at it and you think, well, you would have thought that it'd be the Ottoman army that'd be the really poor quality army. You know, in a weird way, the Austrians do have a technological advantage, but their army's quite poor. It's mostly comprised of reservists. They've conducted a kind of levy en masse mobilization, and they're just using that weight, really. And yeah, again, played us at our own game. You know, we've increasingly since 1850 used this kind of method of, you know, holding at all costs, conducting offensive, you know, at all costs, and shades of Japan in 41. And the problem with that is it's a really high stakes way of kind of conducting warfare if you begin doing it systematically. And this is a concrete example, because the simple fact is, if any of these forces are engaged now, they're going to be laid waste to, absolutely destroyed. Yeah, it leads to a kind of, it can lead to really colossal defeats if it goes south, and that's exactly where it's gone. Whereas if our forces were just kind of ordered to break contact at a moment where the commander assesses that he should do that, you're not going to suffer as heavy casualties. You know, your force lives to fight another day. You might lose a bit of territory, but it was stupid. It was a stupid mistake. We had two armies in Bucharest, besieging Bucharest, where we were struggling. They were teasing this position at Plevna. And Plevna, of course, is the line of communications of Bucharest. So they were teasing this position, obstructing the, you know, continuous flow of replacements into that position. And, yeah, then sprung the offensive. You know, it's, yeah, sort of Operation Uranus kind of comparisons, you know, sort of abound, really. It's, when I looked at it, I thought that's a really good move. They moved into kind of Plevna simultaneously, so they have a force now in Plevna. And it's a force that on its own would do very well. Massive reserves. So, yeah. Best case scenario, we get these forces back to Sofia. We get them inside the depot. We hold the ground around Sofia using the Western armies, which are the only armies that are intact, by force marching them, and begin constructing 2 additional army corps in Izmir or Smyrna or Ankara or somewhere like that, and play for time. That's the best case scenario. Best case scenario is this war is a much longer, harder war, as the actress said to the Episcopal bishop. But it's going to be a really, really hard affair. It's going to be really, really dicey now. Worst case scenario, these forces are engaged, completely destroyed. And I'd say it's flipping a coin. If these forces are engaged now in the state that they're in, it's game over for the war. I mean, like, there's no way that we could win. If we lose 2 entire army commands, which is a possibility, yeah, it's, you know, the war's over, really. Like, we can try and get Abdi Pasha, Omar Pasha, you know, if we can do it, get them to Adrianople, begin kind of padding Adrianople out with fortress garrisons. And, yeah, just kind of hoping that works, really. So, yeah, a very, very dangerous situation. Very, very dangerous situation indeed. In the midst of all that, it looks like we captured some reserve army corps. I think some of them that existed before anyway, but I think one of them at the very least we kind of capture, possibly this Hungarian one. So we've captured, you know, in the midst of this kind of chaos, really. We obviously we win tactical successes, but it's the difference between the tactical game and the strategic one, really. The Austrians are playing, you know, the strategic game. They're using their force of numbers. They've pressed this position very well, and they secure the rear. So, and here's the problem. This is where it gets really complicated as well. How do I get these forces from here to Sofia without them being engaged? One thing that I can do, Rita Pasha is not activated, so I can't set him to evade combat. If I have him set to a passive posture, he's less likely to be engaged. But if he is engaged, his force will be decimated. The reason being is because passive posture is like columning in your force up to kind of, you know, to fall back. So we could try and do that with Rita Pasha's force, or we set to a defensive posture, but to retreat if engaged, which increases the chance, but doesn't make it a sure thing, that if he's engaged, you know, he will retreat in good order. But he might not. He might not have the opportunity to retreat, you know, and if he doesn't, then his force could be destroyed. His force is in the best shape, and he's not activated, so we can't set him to evade. So I'm inclined to do that with Rita Pasha. Have him set to a defensive posture, and make his retreat as orderly as possible. It's a 5-day march for him, okay? Let's have a look. I'm trying to see what forces are actually already set to move. And we're going to stop them moving. I mean, these forces are automatically set to move, basically, to do this. Okay, so Abdul Karim Nadir, whose force is only a paper force, is also not activated. We can't set him to a defensive posture, because if his force is engaged, that's the end of a guard corps, plus a whole lot of service asset units. But he's only a day away. He's a day away from Sofia, so he's probably already been marching back to Sofia for some time. Going to get to set to enter the structure. Okay, that's his orders given. Hussein Avni, we're going to set to evade combat, set to a defensive posture, retreat if engaged, pull back to Sofia, it's 2 days. Force march, 60%, enter structure. That 1 day, there's a 60% chance it'll take 1 day, 40% chance it'll take 2. Right, that's not too bad, that's quite good. If it was a 14-day march, we'd be in real serious trouble there, because that would mean that there's a really good chance those guys will be engaged. We've got Rita Pasha. We're going to move him back as well. My inclination is to possibly move him to Ramelia. We can't do that for whatever reason. Maybe zone of control. Okay, so fine. By default, 5 days. Enter structure, retreat if engaged. These other corps, these kind of damaged Austrian army corps, we're going to keep you guys in place, I think. We'll maybe move this one, if we can. 1 day. Fine, evade combat. Enter structure. I mean, these basically, we have to see these as really substantial garrison forces. That's kind of how we have to look at them. They're not really going to be used in the field, but they're effective large garrison forces. Maybe we keep one. Okay, so we got one in the structure. That's the one that's in the best shape. He's going to be surrounded anyway, so it doesn't matter to hold him at all costs. He's going to be surrounded anyway. But he buys a little bit of time at Plevna, because that's the thing. They've got the forces to assault Plevna, So he, along with, I suppose, the kind of, what else? Has the garrison been mustered? Does the garrison exist? I can't see the garrison. There's remnants of a cavalry division. I'm trying to fathom where that came from. Maybe it's a cavalry division that we were sent up to kind of join, maybe Abdul Karim's force. Has Abdul Karim got a cavalry division? No, he doesn't. Alright, so we'll put that in Abdul Karim's force, which is 4th Urdu. See, that makes his retreat 7 days. I don't like that. Why has he gone to 5 days? Come on. Oh, it's Rita Pasha, that's why. Oh, it's gone up to 7 days. Oh, that was a mistake. Alright, whatever. Let's move the cavalry division 8 days. March. Force march, evade combat. What else have we got that isn't moving? Reserve corps. I think if we move this reserve corps down to Adrianople, we can actually use rail. So we still have access to whatever rail junction is up there in some measure anyway. 6 days, right, we'll do it. Fine. That's pretty much everything trying to get out. Right, so wholesale retreat then. We're in deep, deep waters and it's a wholesale retreat from northern Bulgaria. I don't like that suddenly gone up to 7 days. That's seriously upsetting because it was like a 2-day march or something before. Nothing I can do about it though, is there? Or maybe it was a 7-day march before and I'm just getting mad. Alright, whatever. So that's it. So we're pulling back from northern Bulgaria. We're going to try and get as much as we can inside the fortress in Sofia very, very quickly. We're going to set Abdi Pasha to an offensive posture. We're going to set him to sustained attack. We're going to move his force to Sofia. We're going to get him to march, force march. Yeah, we're going to have to. It's 60%. In case he gets held up, 10 days. Same for you, Omar Pasha. We'll need you back in town. 21 days. Force march chance 75%. If it comes off, it's going to be a 15-day march anyway. We'll get him to all-out attack, I think, if any Austrian forces attempt to get there. If we can hold this kind of central axis, this central position here, it gives us the opportunity to re-counter-attack Plevna at some point, also to maneuver to kind of interfere with Austrian forces if they try and make a play for Adrianople. Yeah. Abdi Pasha's force. This is his guard corps. 6 days for the guard corps, fine. That's pretty much it then. So yeah, the hope is that we can salvage the situation. I'd say it's militarily the most dangerous kind of, yeah, the most dangerous situation we've found ourselves in, I think. It is a significant defeat. And the national morale defeats, that is to say the pitched battle defeats, they may very well flow from this, because it's a kind of strategic defeat, really, as opposed to, you know, a kind of a tactical defeat in the field. Although we do lose. I mean, the last battle that we lose, this one, we don't lose national morale for it, just because we inflict such heavy casualties. You know, on paper, you could sort of say, well, you know, it was, I mean, we lose, you could almost say it's kind of a draw, but the reality is our forces, by this point, they're just running out of men, and a large part of our army surrenders. So they really do hold at all cost, and then I guess once they're kind of, maybe they're enveloped or something like this, I don't know, let's have a look, see if we can kind of get hints of what might be happening from the reports. The men in your unit were fatigued during this round, so you can see some fatigue setting in. Bit of fatigue, bit of bad luck. That's by round 4. Exhaustion. Yeah, it's just the same units fighting, isn't it? That's the thing. They're kind of fighting. It's low probability of hitting anything in that round. Commanding officers showed Good ability. Yeah, it looks like it's a exhaustion, fatigue and exhaustion really beginning to set in really seriously. And I guess just casualties as well. Just heavy casualties. You know, we're just running out of men. And yeah, if you're sort of fighting an Austrian army of I don't know what, by then 400,000, we got 120,000. It is what it is. But yeah, it's a defeat. But no national morale loss from it. You know, on paper, we kind of look like we're doing good. So okay. That's it. That's pretty much the military moves we're going to make, and really kind of hope for the best. I think the next fortnight is going to be really critical, really. It's going to be a really, really kind of dangerous month. Fortnight to a month, I think. Let's check the fleet. So we've got the raiding fleet with the merchants in there. And we've got the main fleet up here, doing a bit of reconnaissance. Set this guy as to defensive. And naval interception. That way they didn't lose anything, but we're going to kind of keep them set to sort of blockade ports, keep an eye on things in the Northern Adriatic. I think that's pretty much it. In terms of our military moves, that's going to be it. We'll have a quick look through, see what else is going on. We're not activated in Yemen. Cavalry division's done well here. Let's quickly check the other kind of coal extraction site. So this is the army corps that was engaged in Macedonia falling back, and yeah, it's engaged at Kosovo, the Kosovo coal site. Yeah, that's pretty decent actually. Nice action that. 5,000 casualties plus 64, so what? 6,400 prisoners. Decent. And Yemen at Hadramut cavalry division inflicts a pretty tasty kind of small action kind of small action really at at Hadramut. Gives the Yemeni to blame those, they fall back to Mukalla. Okay. So anyway, yeah, let's drill through the rest of the report. So cotton plantations opening up. This is cotton being prospected all over India and Egypt. Of artillery regiments almost completing their training. Well, let's get the arsenal sort of. We don't actually have the rail points just yet. We'll use the rail points at some point soon to get these boys moved up. Okay, we've got okay, 5 days by rail to Adrianople, fine. Sugar and tobacco. So a lot of congratulations, a lot of blames. Abdelkrim Nadir gets blamed for suffering a pretty hefty defeat. Some congratulations also, so sort of a mixed bag. We capture, a reserve unit from Austria outside Bucharest. Still got such massive forces, it's really disconcerting. Very disconcerting indeed. What commanders we got? Clan Ganas, Benedek. They got all their commanders there as well. Okay. Alright, well let's check the economy anyway. 137 for 488. Things are quieting down a little bit. Let's check our assets balance. Inflation's back down now. So it looks like the economic crisis, I think, is over. Or at the very least some features of it are kind of over. But yeah, inflation has kind of returned to normal. Currency's stabilized. A lot of fish, tobacco, textiles. Exports look pretty decent. Let's set our exports. Actually, no, we don't want to do that. Right, that's all good. Again, let's quickly check our assets balance. I always do this after I adjust for exports, just to make sure I didn't accidentally click on something, just to make sure nothing is glowing red. If you're not meeting domestic demand for something, one of the boxes will glow red, basically. And that's fine. Check the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So we've got conversion on. Supply stockpiles. Being converted and deposited to map. That's fine. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, good. Let's quickly check the Foreign Ministry. Current war score 1. Should we go for a white piece? Should we roll the dice? Now's the time to do it, I think, to tell you the truth. Yeah, it's not the outcome I would have wanted, but we've had a pretty good year. We had a pretty good kind of summer. They might break the white piece anyway, but I think probably I think now's the time to do it. Yeah. It's just it's too dangerous a situation. So we're going to send an offer for a white piece to Austria. I don't think they're going to accept it. They'd be mad to accept it, frankly. We're going to promise local support to the UK. That just bolsters our relations with them. It might mean that we have to go to war with someone if someone goes to war with the UK, but I think they should be okay, to tell you the truth. And that's going to take up 3. We'll keep 1 diplomat kind of in reserve. Check out Academy of Sciences very quickly. We haven't got the officers yet, so we're going to keep muzzle-loaded rifles being invested in, and then we'll release kind of funds from our sort of Academy of Sciences as and when sort of needed, really. If there's one thing we've got going for us, it's the national morale factor. But they're still basically in a sort of balanced positive situation. They're still above 100 in the last analysis. So, yeah. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I don't like the idea that we kind of we're trying to break even with Austria, but a white piece, you know. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, we don't want to play any colonial cards, I don't think. We're going to kind of save the state revenue. Basically, if we get these forces sat inside Sofia for a few months, we're not going to be conducting any serious big operations, really, I think, for 2-3 months. And it's buying enough time for us to be able to kind of build that strength back up. But yeah, maybe we could be looking at a kind of summer offensive, a summer counter-attack. But then it's kind of, you know, what's Austria going to do between now and then? They're not just going to sit outside Plevna. I'd be amazed if they do. Maybe Plevna buys us a bit of time. But they did pretty well in taking Constanta, and Constanta was a pretty big fort. You know, it's not as big as Adrianople or Constantinople, but it was big. So that's disconcerting. Okay. Right, nothing to be alarmed about in the remaining reports. So this is going to be it. We're going to pass turn. The moment of truth, really. The idea is these guys get out of Plevna scot-free without engaging in any kind of battle. That's what we need. 4 days to there. 9 days to there. mean, Rita Pasha kind of functions as a rear guard for 5 days. I just don't like that Abdul Karim Nadir's force is that vulnerable. Sod it. There's nothing we can do about it, really. Unless we try to move into 4 days is better, isn't it? Agosta. And then get inside the fort at Agosta, something like that. Oh, his force is in like the worst shape. His force is the most damaged. If we put these forces inside the fortress in Plevna, they are utterly doomed. So we need to get them out. We don't want them entering the fortress of Plevna. We want them to kind of get out as quickly as possible. Yeah, we're going to have to just do that. Okay. It's just faster. Let's get into Agosta, enter the new fortress at Agosta, I think. There's no one in Agosta at the moment. They've not got any forces in kind of Dorabeta. So they'll have to move to Agosta from Plevna, which they might well do. I'd be surprised if they could do it in 4 days, but they might be able to. Alright, so we do that then. Okay, that's it. It's past turn. I'll put you on pause. Fingers tightly crossed. And yeah, see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back then. Late January. And it definitely wasn't the best outcome that we could hope for. But it's not the worst. Basically, Abdul Karim Nadir, whose force was the most damaged force, was engaged. And... hang on, I beg your pardon. That's Abdi Pasha. That's actually Abdi Pasha in Zvornik trying to move back through a engaged Austrian force that appears that like it might have dissolved entirely. So this is Zvornik. So this Austrian force is about 80,000, 1,600 prisoners, 20,000 casualties. So it wouldn't have dissolved, but it might have been sort of moving up. Maybe it's in Sarajevo or Savra. It's out of sight. Although we get really good intelligence around here because of fairly high local population loyalty, so I don't know, but it's that force is still at large, but it's a victory. It won't be this force here. No, I don't know where it is. Abdi Pasha is 1 day away from Sofia. Omar Pasha made it on time. We're going to set into a defensive posture. Okay, so Abdul Karim's force then is engaged, and what remained of his command is wiped out entirely. So we've lost basically an entire field command. It looks like it's under the command of Rita Pasha, but it's actually Abdul Karim Nadir. He is in Salonika recovering from wounds. It looks like there are only minor wounds, and he's back in the game. So we're going to get him moved up to... Yeah, going to get him moved up, and he's going to join Rita Pasha's command. He might actually replace Rita Pasha as a more senior commander. No, Rita Pasha's seniority is 1. I don't like that Rita Pasha is the nominal field commander. He's got quite high seniority. I find this troubling. Because I don't really want him commanding the defence. I want Omar Pasha commanding the defence. So to that end, let's make some changes very quickly. Mehmed Pasha is promotable. Ahmed Pasha, who is... We basically want to get Rita Pasha out because he's an old general. You know, he has this kind of seniority, and we don't want him kind of being the theatre commander, frankly. Let's get him back to Adrianople, shall we? Command the garrison there. So you've got 2 2-star generals, 1 3-star. We'll get Ahmed Pasha then commanding. He's 6 seniority, that's good. So he'll be in command of that force for the time being. And let's get Abdul Karim Nadir. Despite Abdul Karim Nadir not doing terribly well, you know, I mean, losing an entire kind of command, he's still a fairly capable defensive commander. So we'll get him seniority of 5 also. So who would be... so yeah, he'll be in command of that formation when he's there, sort of thing. Right, okay. What do we have left then? Omar Pasha is in theatre, although his force has sustained losses and is obviously exhausted, having marched all the way from in difficult weather, snow and rain, to Sofia, so he's going to have to sit tight. get some replacements, and his force is slightly weakened by the loss of a commander. We've got a reserve force, which is functioning as a garrison. We'll set that force tight. Ahmed Pasha now is in command of the 4th Army. Omar Pasha, Hussein Avni. Hussein Avni is sitting tight inside. Yeah, inside the fortress, awaiting replacements, basically. So we'll keep him there. We've got another infantry corps, Austrian one, functioning as a garrison. We'll keep that force there. And another reserve army corps, which is kind of partially formed. What do we do? My thinking is this one, which is partially formed. Put that on rails. So that's Adrianople. We'll set that to enter the structure. Okay. So we're starting to get some force concentration around Sofia. It's still a really dangerous fortnight because the Austrian army that's in Plevna is massive. Is absolutely huge. So it's going to be a case of it's going to be very touch and go, you know. So it's just going to be getting these guys kind of holding a defensive posture, hoping that the entire Austrian army I don't think is going to move now. It might, but just holding tight, trying to buy a bit of time, getting some replacements, getting the right commanders in place, and so on. But we have lost an entire army. So we now have Abdi Pasha's army. He's a day away. And then after that, he's got some time to recover. The problem is, outside Sofia is snow, so it's going to take him a bit of time to recover because of difficult weather. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4... Yeah, 4 commands basically, 4 armies. Which is about 370,000 men, something like that. At full strength. And of course, let's remember that Hussein Avni's command is not at full strength. 68,000 now. They are getting replacements in, though, to be fair. We're going to keep him at passive posture. It's dangerous, but we need to have him as a priority for replacements to get this force up to scratch as quickly as possible. The 2 of the corps are a number of elements short. They need regiments to be reconstructed. So we make his force a priority, I think. Having Ritza Pasha in command of the garrison at Adrianople would be beneficial to us because it would make the garrison significantly more effective. For one, we've got fortress and artillery. Let's put these on rails. Enter structure. Artillery regiments plus a fortress garrison. We're not too far off being able to build a militia corps. So we're going to have to build 2 infantry corps, ideally also a guard corps, and then a whole load of kind of service asset units, basically. So yeah. We either do that, which is going to take a long time, 6 months, maybe longer, or we just continuously focus now on building Adrianople up as a massive, like lots of fortress units and stuff like that. That's the other option, the other possibility. We're not going to build anything this turn anyway, so. Okay. Let's check our reserves. This might be an opportunity. The problem is if we expand the reserves, it eats into our officers. In terms of the number of officers that we have. We actually have a fairly decent strategic reserve to draw on. So I don't think there's anything that we can do. We carefully built up strategic reserve during the last 2 wars and never really had to use it very much. So we've got a large strategic reserve. We've invested in the past. It means that in a weird way it holds us in kind of good stead now. It's something that you definitely do for a rainy day. Now the other action actually was a colonial one. We landed a kind of marine brigade in Siak with the hope of developing some kind of maybe military presence. It didn't pan out. And yeah, this kind of region is now, it sees itself in conflict with us, which means it's going to be difficult to sustain any colonial kind of colonial kind of structures or infrastructure there, anything like that. We'll check that battle actually, since Siak was a defeat. What is especially interesting though is seeing the unit cards of this force. Wonderful. And another engagement in Siak with more varied units. Very cool. Bit of a bug there. It has the Austrian commander von Wimpfen, I think, which of course he was not in command of the these forces. The Siak, what is it? A Siak, I guess, Sultanate of Siak, something like that. Right. Well, that's the kind of combat report anyway. We got most of our forces out. We didn't lose Hussein Avni's force, which is a risk, and we didn't lose Rita Pasha's force, which is also a risk. And let's keep in mind that Abdul Karim Nadir's force was largely destroyed anyway, but it would have been nice to have preserved the Guard Corps, which we didn't do. They're really expensive units, you know, and that's one of 5 Guard Corps that we have, so 1/5. We've just basically lost 1/5 of our army completely. That has to be rebuilt from scratch. It's no small thing. But it's not the worst case scenario. It's not the best either, but yeah. The main thing now is just time. It's buying time. How much time are we going to have without being hassled at Sofia? They said a part of their force here. Well, it's got Clam Gallus, looks like he's in command now, of Plevna. He will offer some support, I guess. I don't know. The other news, of course, is the American Civil War's kind of kicked off, which will be interesting. We'll follow that. We've, of course, got merchants in place, anticipating that there might be trouble in the North American continent. That might sort of mix things up a little bit in terms of tobacco exports and cotton exports. We'll keep an eye on that. We can't really export any more tobacco than we already are, but yeah, the American Civil War has begun. Let's have a look. I guess just a lot of supplies moving using maritime means. Let's check the economy. So the economic crisis is formally over in a number of regions now. Orange and Morocco, Venezuela, Argentina, Honduras, Haiti, Tuscany, Ottoman Empire. We kind of already sort of saw that it was going to be over because Austria as well, unfortunately. It's fairly brief then. As economic crises go, it was pretty mild stuff. Prospect team has been found. So, okay, that's interesting. Okay, whatever. One thing we do have then is a lot of private capital and manufactured goods. So we can look at a construction, I think, now. In where? Let's have a look. I'm thinking maybe a luxury goods shop or another textile shop. We've got a luxury goods shop and a textile shop being built in Ankara. Or a steel plant is the other possibility, and that is something we've been thinking about for a while now. A steel plant would just make us absolutely self-sufficient. 47 manufactured goods. What other options are there? Arms shop. Coal and iron. Okay, so we're gonna build a steel furnace in Ankara. That still leaves us a bit of private capital. What we need to start thinking about doing is exploiting the iron deposits in the east of the country then. So Van, I think, is going to be next. We might even be able to do that. Yeah, we would. Iron extraction site in Van. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so iron, plus we've got the coal from central Anatolia supporting that steel furnace, plus a bit of coal from what we control in Europe also. We've got a coal site being developed. With the founding of Pristina because of population growth in Kosovo. Yeah, I think we need a section of railroad going down from Niš to Kosovo and also from Sofia to Petric, but not just yet, perhaps. Okay, 504 domestic market sales, 337 goods, 273 75 merchandise as exports. Low imports, which is really good. Excellent. Still textiles. We need more. Should have got a textile shop. I think that'll be the next thing. Tell me about exports again. How much do we exactly export? So 7 textiles plus 5 exports, and a lot of fish. All right, good round economically. We'll keep that investment going into Academy of Sciences for the time being. It's a long-term thing, but it's just one of those things you can't keep. If you keep lifting your sort of foot off the throttle with that, it ends up just sort of not really being worth doing. But the economic crisis is over, and the immediate crisis of losing most of our army is also probably over, depending on whether or not they push hard for Sofia now. But it'll become clearer by, I think probably by kind of late February, early March, it'll become clearer, how bad this situation is. It's we lost the national morale point that turn, +2 for return to neutral, because neutral is 100 basically. Return to, they're at 109, we're at 119. They've received our request, but haven't responded yet. They will respond next turn. Probably they're unlikely to. So yes, I would suggest they're unlikely to say yes. But we'll see. So yeah, Pristina's been established as a city in Kosovo. Samara in northern Iraq. Bursa has increased the population level, as does Diyarbakir, which is interesting. Although does Diyarbakir have an exploitation centre? It does. Okay, fine. So there's still little pockets of our country in the east that we kind of can't economically develop or reach yet. Still a bit of a localized economy, less so than was the case. We actually have a collection centre established in Sarajevo, but of course that's currently under Austrian occupation, and Austrian Army Corps there as well. What is this? Croatian. Okay. All right. Coal's looking a little low, isn't it? Let's have a look at what's going on with coal. 45 is not really what we would be hoping for. Yeah, exports. East Mexico would be a good place for coal imports, because they're offering 46, demand's only 15. Whereas North Germany, they're pushing 96, but demand is 153. And elsewhere, demand for the most part outstrips supply. We can actually import coal from northern Austria because there's almost no demand there at all. We won't do that though, because we don't want to put any money in the pockets of Austrian capitalists. So coal. We'll go 30. It's going to be interesting, the American Civil War, because of course the Americans had been at war with Mexico, and now federal forces are sort of rather isolated, and I would imagine a large part of the American army may be there. Although, of course, to a large extent, the American army was kind of made in the Civil War. They had a fairly small army before the Civil War, so I don't know. And they might have scripted events founding the Army of the Potomac and such, but we'll keep an eye on this. Be interested to see how this goes. I think that's it then. Check our assets balance once more very quickly. Everything looks okay. I'm going to check our sensors also, just to make sure there's no strikes, demonstrations, no kind of problems. No, that's good. Okay. Right, let's leave it there. So we're in late Jan. I'm going to pass turn and see you on the other side in early February. Right, so welcome back then, early February, and let's have a look at the reports. First of all, just some flavour reports, cotton plantations, brigands, and so on. Right, this kind of marine corps, this marine brigade, I should say, that's in SEAC. We need to try and find a way of getting these guys out because they're half a world away, you know, and yeah, they're in a really dangerous situation there, and it's absolutely bonkers to kind of keep them there permanently. The 13th column, lucky for some, appropriately named maybe. 42 days. Let's get them sea transported back to Basra, and we're going to have to cut our losses a little bit in Sumatra. Let's see what developments there are there. The Dutch aren't pushing for any kind of formal colonial status, but we're now in a situation we can't really raise our colonial penetration in this kind of SEAC sultanate because these forces are essentially hostile to us, so not good. We still hold pretty decent colonial penetration here, and we're in a position to challenge the Dutch if they try to make a move to change the status of Sumatra, which is merely an influence territory at this point. In terms of developments, they're fairly quiet round militarily. It looks like the Austrians pushed an assault onto Plevna. It's considered a Turkish defeat. This gives an idea of the size of their forces. So they've got a bit over 500,000 men. Yeah, it's not a small force. And they take 11,000 casualties. They inflict 11,000, but of course, the function of this force is really just to buy time. It's a sacrificial pawn, and they're doing just that. These are actually Austrian sort of captured corps. So I mean, obviously we only captured the HQ unit. It's been staffed with prisoners of war, and yeah, they're being used to now delay the Austrian army. Struth, yeah, very substantial forces they have. Just have a look at the names of their forces. So it looks like they've pulled the lion's share of their force back to Constanta. That's interesting. Yeah, why that is the case is I'm not sure. Maybe they're fixing for a move to Adrianople, or they're just forces that are damaged. Maybe they're just looking to get some kind of replacements and so on and so forth, which is exactly what we're doing. We're actually in a good position in Sofia now. So Abdul Karim Nadir, having lost an army, has been given a new one. His failure is rewarded with a new army. He's not a terrible commander. He's got Ahmed Pasha then as his number 2 in command of the Guard Corps in that force. Hussein Avni's force, Omar Pasha's force is in slightly better shape now. He's starting to get some reorganisation. We've got Abdi Pasha in the field also. His force is in reasonable shape. Thinking of putting Omar Pasha into Sofia just to accelerate the recovery of cohesion of his force, really. I don't know. Hussein Avni's force then is set for priority replacements, and his force is being largely reconstructed. He's got one corps which is still awaiting replacements. What do the supplies look like in Sofia? They're pretty decent. So yeah, his force is going to hold tight, I think. We are going to set him... No, we'll keep him on a passive posture for now, I think. Yeah, we're going to hold our position here. So we have about... Bear in mind that these reserve corps that we have, these army corps, will be committed to any big engagement in this area. So if the Austrians make a play for Sofia, it'll be a titanic battle, but we could probably bring to the field a force that's not much smaller than theirs. With that in mind, we are now going to set our posture to hold at all costs. It's a high stakes kind of game, but with something almost kind of, you know, amounting to force parity, it's maybe worth doing. Yeah, that's it. We hold that position. In Adrianople then, we've got Rita Pasha now in place. He's going to be given command of the garrison there, which is this force here. So there we go. That is going to be supplemented with an additional fortress. yeah, an additional kind of fortress division. And the remaining forces then are artillery guns. Let's see what we've got spare kind of available command points. Well, in both Abdul Karim and Abdi's forces we do, and in Hussein Avni's force we also do, so... We'll go with Abdi Pasha, I think. This reserve force, which is comprised of Polish kind of patriots, I suppose, the Polish prisoners of war that are taking up our cause, that's in the process of being constructed. Or furnished, really. So who do we give them to? I'm trying to think. Okay, we're sending one gun regiment to Abdul Karim's force. We'll send one to Abdi Pasha's force. And I think we have another one. Yeah, we do. We'll give this to Abdul Karim as well. Okay, so we're beefing up this force with a bit of firepower then, which we had been intending to do anyway. Obviously it takes time for us to do that. Do we have also some guns? No, we don't. Alright. Now, we are in a position to begin the process of reconstructing forces. So let's have a look. 29 officers. One thing that the destruction of an entire army does, we should keep in mind here that we've lost a fifth of our army. It's not a small thing. It's not a massive thing, but it's not a small thing. But it's a permanent loss. I mean, permanent insofar as it requires us to reconstruct those forces from scratch. But once those forces no longer exist, it frees up officers from replacing officers that are discharged from service. So these officers can be called to the colours to furnish new formations, essentially. So they're not replacing officers that are either are lost through discharging, you know, that they've served their career, or maybe they just die because of disease. There's a kind of constant process of attrition. So they're no longer required for 1/5 of our army. So that should slightly accelerate the number of officers that we have become available. So Militia Corps is going to be 21 officers. We've got 29. So let's begin the construction of a Militia Corps then, right? I think. And where do we do it? I guess it is Izmit. It's got good rail access. Well, actually, no, we'll do it here because we have a fortress. It's going to be a, you know, a kind of bone grinding, sort of slow experience. It's going to be, but it is what it is. We have to just begin the process now. It's going to be 2 infantry corps or militia corps, conscripts, a guard corps, all of the service asset units, guns, everything. You know, maybe we hope to have it done by June, July, optimistically. But we just have to do it, really. We can't permanently just accept that a fifth of our army will no longer exist. Yeah, I just hope, you know, during that time we can kind of hold our position. Right, right patrolling. We've had merchants get hit. Nothing too significant there, but yeah, the Austrians have got raiders all over the place. Merchants hit here also, but nothing too bad. Okay. Probably Plevna's going to fall next turn, I think. So, yeah, we've got another two weeks, maybe a month before they kind of move on Sofia. The time, you know, I think we have enough time to kind of do this. We are going to get Omar Pasha inside the fortress just to accelerate the recovery of his force. His force arrived back. They've broken another force back off. That's interesting. Or was that just the force that we defeated? I don't know. We're going to get Omar Pasha anyway back into into Sofia, get some force recovery going. And he will be in a much better sort of shape, really, in a fortnight to then kind of engage in action in kind of Sofia district outside the city. 7 replacement units, that's a lot. Okay, replacements look good. Look really good. So the main thing we have to look at, of course, is Burgas or Burgas. It's a kind of line of communication to the capital. We're well positioned to kind of make a move back to Adrianople if need be, but this is good. This is kind of, again, it's not the worst case scenario, not the best, but the signs here that we're beginning to stabilize the situation. Let's check our economy. So, textiles, fruits, tobacco, fish, cereals. Imported 30 liters of coal, that's good. Okay-ish round economically. Now, I mean, it goes without saying, the Austrians, of course, yeah, they refused our peace proposal, so we're still at war with Austria. I thought that'd probably be the case. I thought, nevertheless, the situation is serious enough that it was worth kind of trying, you know. But yeah. We should put in for pushing for formal colonial status at Singapore. Okay. Now we have got merchants that we need to kind of begin to send out now. So we've got some in Smyrna, which is actually the Mediterranean, or part of the Mediterranean merchant fleet. Get those guys back into the Med. And in addition to that, we have another merchant fleet in Constantinople, which I think is ready to sail. Let's check the strategic map. So Mexico, Eastern Seaboard, Indian Ocean. Thinking of Latin America, Brazil and Argentina, but also China. Let's send a fleet to the coast of Brazil. We've got Northern Europe. Basically, we've got Europe, the Black Sea, the Indian Ocean, kind of Japan. Let's quickly check Japan. See what its trade box is. Yeah, so it's going to be this trade box. Northern Asian Maritime Trade Box. Trade Maritime Box, Northeast, yeah, Northern Asian and Eastern Pacific. Okay. Okay. So we've got Venezuela, Colombia, and the kind of Central American states. But I'm looking at kind of Brazil, Argentina as possible markets. So let's send merchants to the Latin American Maritime Box. Really just as a place where we can export manufactured goods and things like that, you know. $18 days. Okay. Okay, let's check our exports. National morale solid at 118, that's good. Cotton, as we want to keep an eye on. My hope is that the American Civil War allows us to unload this cotton onto the market, because we've got quite a lot, and that'd be really welcome. Can't believe that we're losing preserved food through conversion. Okay, let's check assets balance. Sound, that's all good. Regional census, let's check public order. That appears to be fine as well. 25. State revenue is unbelievably low. So we lift. We're going to have to release funds for the time being. Right. Of course, it's because we'll be on the construction of an army corps. It's easy to kind of take for granted just how expensive these things are, really. But they are really expensive. I mean, it's a substantial force, 30,000 men, you know, furnished with artillery, weapons, uniforms. It's not a small thing. Right, all good. Let's have a quick look around the Empire. Just kind of scan around, make sure everything kind of looks okay. Everything is sort of where it should be. I think we're probably in a position now to construct a second iron mine in Van. Let's have a look. 600. Yeah, things are becoming much cheaper again now, which is really good to see because of declining inflation. 60 manufactured goods, 10 steel, 2 coal. These are 376. Let's just check our operational costs. 250, fine. Happy with that. Okay. Let's just check Libya very quickly. Yeah, no dramas or problems. The French do have access rights. They've long term had a supply train based in Misrata. Down at Aden. That's good. Yeah, okay, good. We're not going to play any colonial cards or anything, I think, just yet. Because we're light in state revenue, and we don't have a huge amount of capital either, so we'll leave that for now. Let's just check our coal. 82. We'll set it at 20 this time for Mexico. Slightly more demand this time in Mexico, but it's okay. Iron continues to decline, about 6 units per turn, although we spent some iron. No, that's all fine. Let's just check steel really quickly, actually. Keep an eye on that for a turn or two. We're going to pass the turn. We are in early Feb, so we'll put you on pause and see you in late February. Okay, welcome back then. Late February, 1861. And in terms of combat reports, it was anticipated, but they've taken Plevna. So they conducted a final assault. We do lose a national morale point. And what remained of that reserve kind of, Austrian corps comprised of sort of emigres and whatever, that force is destroyed. It was a sacrificial kind of pawn. We can see that Austrian numbers are up to about 585,000 now, so that's on the basis of some replacements they would have received. Still a very substantial force indeed, and that would probably be a combination of all three of these positions since they are affording support. So they're over half, nearly 600,000. So yeah, and our forces are going to be combined. It's going to be 90 plus like another 90 plus what have we got? Omar Pasha's 94,000. Hussein Avni's now up to 90,000. So for the most part, these forces have been reconstructed now. So we're going to have like plus 2 reserve corps. We're going to have probably, I reckon, about 400 to 450,000 men able to be brought into the defense of Sofia. So that's pretty good. That's as close as we're going to get to even Stevens. Plus the theatre commander should, in theory, be Omar Pasha. He received his commission before Abdi, so it should be him. We still got Abdul Karim Nadir. Actually, no, he's already out. What am I talking about? Hussein Avni is the one that's in, so he's still waiting on 2 elements. Still waiting on some replacements. We will set him to a defensive posture now, however, so he can be brought to bear in the event that the Austrians push really hard. Now, if they push hard for Sofia, they may not be able to commit all of those forces to Sofia, and they might branch out and try and move for Adrianople as well. The good thing with Adrianople is we do have a really substantial force there. So yeah, we have a force. It's a really large fortress as well. Plus, that fortress will muster quite a large force. So we should be able to hold Adrianople, I think, for quite a long time. I may be wrong, but I mean, it would inflict devastating casualties on them if they tried to assault it. And then after that, of course, is yeah, down to the Triarii, it'll be Constantinople next. So we do, we can't just sit here forever. But our replacement systems and rails have worked good. I mean, they work really, really well. These forces are, for the most part, being reconstructed. As I say, we're simply waiting on Hussein Avni's last corps and his third corps to receive an additional 2 regiments. And then they're back up to full strength, which is really good. Osman's fleet then does a bit of raiding against the Austrians. That's nice to see. Nothing huge. We lands 6 hits, takes 2 in return. We're actually going to bring him back now, I think, because he has sustained some casualties. So we're going to bring him back to Smyrna. And we are going to move the main fleet, which has been blockading Trieste. Really just kind of keeping a bit of an eye. We're going to move the main fleet now down to the Mediterranean trade blocks. Sets an offensive posture. The thing about this, I noticed this before, is if we inflict damage in the trade box, what they're likely to do is to leave and try and send forces up, probably for repairs, probably at Trieste. So I'm thinking if we head down the Adriatic, we might sort of, catch them on their way up, kind of thing. So the artillery regiments have arrived. Where is Hussein Avni? Because I think he probably needs some of those. Okay. Dye quarry done. 5 replacements from reserve farmed out. Okay, good. Very good. Yeah, it's the thing with Plevna is that it's a little bit of economic disruption there because we've got 2 cereal farms and 2 tobacco plantations, so we don't want them holding it long term. And let's have a look. So breech-loaded rifles is the next thing, really. That's kind of after muzzle-loaded. Although we could try and go for a kind of technological leap. I don't know how we got breech-loaded beforehand. It would not be possible. We'll leave it. We're not going to invest any state revenue. We want state revenue basically for the time being to construct new forces, frankly. Yeah, we won't do anything just yet. We have a cavalry division. We don't. Make sure all these forces have got a mobile element. They do. I'll just check Hussein Avni very quickly. Yeah, he's got a cavalry division as well. Fine. So they've basically got all the pieces that they need. Okay, so we've been in deep water, really. It was a tough end, or a tough transition from 1860 to 61, and yeah, make no odds about it, it is a defeat. Our backs are increasingly to the wall. The Austrians are now, they've basically successfully pushed across the Danube. I think we're out of the really hot water that we're in, like the kind of deep water. We had a really bad situation where, I mean, we were looking like we could be losing, maybe 3 entire field commands, which could have happened. In the event, we lost 1. So, yeah, again, not great, not terrible, but would have rather have not lost a 5th of our entire army, frankly. And it will take some time. I think probably more than 6 months to reconstruct that force. In the meantime, as it's constructed, we'll bring it up into Adrianople by rail, basically. And that will join the Adrianople garrison. We'll begin to build a large reserve. And eventually, part of that reserve will be released as an independent field command. I think we still have the forces to do the job. It is going to be touch and go. In terms of victory locations, I mean, where they're likely to move next, I think they had to take Adrianople really to move south to open up kind of lines of communication. So the next logical target is either Sofia or Adrianople. I don't want to split our forces, and Adrianople is the most modern and largest fortress that we have, probably outside of Constantinople. We've spent a lot of money very early in this game, around between 1850 and 55. We spent a lot upgrading that. So it's a large and modern fortress. It's not going to be a pushover like Plevna, and it's even bigger and more modern than Constanta. And it took them, a good couple of kind of. It took about 6 weeks to kind of level Constanta. So, yeah, Dryson needle gun. Let's see what that gives us. Problem is, we have so many research now. It's like I don't think it actually gives us any military units. Percussion cap. Dryson needle gun. It does. It gives us 3 new units of our force pool. Ooh, I wonder what they are. And leads to reserve formations and breach loaded. Let's see what it is. Let's have a quick gander. Army Corps the same. I mean, I suppose it'll just be the same as what we've got, but 2 of something slightly newer, maybe Marine. I don't know, Marine regiments. Yeah, I don't know. It generates 3 new kinds of units, but I don't know what they are. I've got Jean and Marie. Yeah, okay. No, none of those. Yeah, God knows. Right, I think we'll leave it there. So we'll pick up, I think we'll pick up where I've left off. I won't pass turn. We'll pick up in late February. So we'll go through this turn, basically, and set the economy and everything. And then, yeah, it's... Yeah, I think the immediate danger has passed, but we are going into a new stage now. We're going to be looking at another colossal battle, and the key thing is we don't want to get a situation... We have more forces in Sofia than we had strung out of Plevna and Bucharest, and in Bucharest 2 of our armies were quite weak. So we should keep that in mind. The winters, the weather's pretty tough still. Sofia is quite hilly. So yeah, nothing in the west. I think they've gone all in on this kind of push, So we'll see how their offensive develops. And the idea is we really want to score something big to kind of regain the initiative. Hopefully Hussein Avni's last replacements will arrive in the next fortnight, because we want to be looking at the possibility of a counterattack in the event that any offensive against us fails. We've got all our forces set to hold at all costs, so we are going to absolutely fight to hold this position. In the last analysis, if we can't hold this position, we can't hold any position. We won't hold out Adrianople or anywhere else. So it may as well be here. But it's... we have 2 reserve corps that we can draw on as well, inside the fortress. So yeah, we could take a bit of comfort in that. That pads out our numbers a bit. We don't have any other commanders, do we? In Salonika, no. So we'll leave it there. Yeah, and... yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think we're out of the kind of we're out of the deep waters for now, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough spring though. Yeah, do they go for Adrianople? Do they go for Sofia? Do they split their forces? That's sort of ideal. If they split their forces, they won't have enough to take Adrianople anyway, and they get nailed quite badly at Sofia. That opens up the possibility for a counterattack. If they launch an all-out attack from Plevna against Sofia, then their reserve formations won't be able to support that force. At least initially, until the reserve formations are in place in Plevna, won't be able to provide support. So they won't be able to draw on that 500,000, I don't think. Which means, again, we could look at a really, really, big defeat of the Austrians. That's what we need now. We need successive, big wins in the field, in Sofia district, outside the city, and then use that as the kind of springboard then for a counter-offensive to regain the initiative and to look at maybe a summer campaign to re-secure the south bank of the Danube. That's kind of the hope, really. But it looks like force recovery is for the most part accomplished, and we're out of the danger zone. But I'll leave it there. We'll pick up in late February. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.